And it's not until some other factors come in, like maybe I just really haven't had a lot of sleep this week. Maybe I was in a big meeting that I had been preparing for, and maybe I hadn't eaten that much and I'm just feeling kind of exhausted. So maybe one drink or two drinks over a period of time are going to hit me a lot harder. I mean, have you seen a lot of situations like that where the person was just a little more tired than normal?
I have, Erica. We've actually had a case very recently that resolved quite favorably for our client. And without going into too many specific details, the general idea was that we had verification from a bar tab that he had had two drinks. But the reality was that this was in fact a business meeting, just like you proposed, Erica. And the business deal went well. He made his proposal. They shook hands and closed the deal. But he had been spending a lot of hours that week getting prepared for the meeting. And the exhaustion finally hit him after the adrenaline rush of the deal finally wore off. So as he's driving home, he realizes that he's not safe to drive. So he pulls into a gas station and he pulls into a parking spot, has no issues driving, no issues pulling over. He lays his chair back and he decides, I'm going to catch a few Z's before I finish the last 40 minutes to get home. And what happens, but before he knows it, an officer's knocking on his window, asking him to get out of the car, perform field sobriety tests. And then the next thing he knows is he's charged with driving while intoxicated.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you do in that situation? Because I've heard of that before, and let's face it, we're kind of near the end of our winter months here, but up here in the Northeast, it gets very cold, and I know where you are, it also gets very cold. So if you want to take a nap, you're more likely to keep that engine running. And what is your advice?
I would say a few things. First is, if you can have the engine not running, then you definitely should. The officer in my client's case, I think his first mistake was charging the DUI rather than physical control of a motor vehicle. Now, the difference between physical control of a motor vehicle and a DUI is that element of operation. So to be in physical control of a motor vehicle, the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that an individual had the ability to operate and control the vehicle and was impaired. The difference being in the DUI situation that the individual was in fact operating the motor vehicle while being impaired. So how do you avoid that? How do you put yourself in a position where you're not able to operate and control the motor vehicle? Well, I would say step one would be put the keys in the glove box so they're not accessible from wherever you are in the car. Second, put yourself in a position that you're not behind the wheel. Put yourself in the passenger seat if you've got a coupe, or if you've got a sedan, an SUV, or a van of some sort, get in the back seat. That way, there's no doubt that you don't have any ability to operate and control this motor vehicle. Now, that being said, Erica, there's no guarantee that an officer and a prosecutor might not try and push that issue. But I'll tell you what, I would love the opportunity to try that case to a jury, because I don't think there are 8 citizens anywhere in America who would convict you of making that good decision under those circumstances.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in that case, you are trying to do the right thing. And I know even if I haven't been drinking, tired driving is just as dangerous a lot of times. So, you do need to pull over and take a nap sometimes to finish the drive. And, I think that is great advice. Get in the back seat, put your keys somewhere else. Don't leave them in the ignition, and get the rest you need. And then drive when you feel like you are able and alert.
Absolutely. And Erica, to kind of touch on your point of tired driving being also dangerous or also exhibiting the signs of impaired driving. We had a case about 2 years ago where our client had to work a triple shift. She was a home health aide. She had her shift, and the person who was supposed to relieve her had come down with the flu or some illness, so she had to work their shift, and then she had another shift after that. Now, notwithstanding the impropriety of the agency making her work 3 shifts back to back to back, she was heading home from that, and she was tired. She gets pulled over, and she gets interrogated by an officer. Now, get this. She's on antidepressants, which have no ability to impair your operation of a motor vehicle. But the officer asks her, what drugs are you on? And she honestly tells him, I'm on antidepressants. Would you believe me if I told you that the officer cited her for DUI, and our local prosecutor was going to take that case to trial and try to convict her of DUI because she was tired and had taken antidepressants? And we know that that's the only thing she took because she submitted to a urine screen, and that's the only thing that showed up in the screen.
Wow. I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, obviously you don't want somebody driving while they're under the influence of something that actually has that effect, but really it sounds like exhaustion was the thing. And what do you get charged? Do you get charged with something if you are driving tired?
You could presumably be charged with reckless operation of a motor vehicle, but that would also have to include some dangerous operation, something to qualify as, in fact, operating a motor vehicle in the parlance of the statute in wanton disregard of others' safety.
So that's really good information to have.